Welcome back. All right, so let's continue to discuss risk. I didn't get to all the types of quality related risks in the last video. I got to some, but not all. So let's continue. And another one is time management. So you may have time requirements to do whatever you need to do for your customer, for your client. It's a risk, especially if you don't meet that time frame, right? So you should identify internally time management as a potential risk for what you are providing, what you're doing, especially if you do have a time requirement. Maybe not everyone has that as a potential risk, but a lot of companies do. They have requirements to do a service or provide a product in a certain time frame, right? So depending on what the company is doing, they may be doing a lot of different things, and that is a risk. If you have multiple activities, multiple projects going on, you may be spread thin. So it's a risk that you need to identify to make sure that you're tracking that you are capable of meeting all the requirements for the various things you're doing. All right. Another risk could be materials, equipment coming in, because you may need to monitor what you're doing going out to your customer and or client, but there's oftentimes you need something in order to do what you're doing for them. So materials, equipment coming in to use on whatever you're doing for your customer and or client, that's a risk. Especially when it is from a third party, when it's across states or countries and shipping is an issue, it's a risk. So you have to identify it. Other risks could be internal, could be within your environment of your workplace. Internet could be a risk. If you lose it, you may have problems doing what you need to do. Power going out is a risk. Not everyone has a generator. So if your power goes out, you lose it for a certain amount of time, you may lose business. You may have to shut down. You lose time, you lose money, right? So those are risks. You have to look at them and find ways to mitigate them, which I'll talk about in the next video, right? Those are just a few more risks to look at on things that could impact compliance for a business, impact in a negative way your customer, your client, right? So identifying is just the first part. Mitigating is the next, which again, I'll talk about in the next video. There's a few ways you can mitigate things, but in the end, depending on what you're doing, who you're doing it for, your customer, your client may not care how you mitigate, how you may pass along a risk. You are still held responsible for the service, the product, whatever you're providing to your customer and your client. So what I talk about in the next video may or may not be relevant. It's going to be important regardless, but there's times where you can try to pass the buck and the buck goes back to you, so to speak. So just remember that identifying is just the first part. Ensuring there's a plan in place is very important and vital after the identification, because identifying something and not doing anything about it it's kind of a waste of time. And then communicating the plan of action is also very important. So next video, I'll talk about the various types of actions to take concerning risk. And once you have that established, communicating to all the employees is important so they understand the plan that has been put in place for those risks. And you'll be stronger as a company with them. All right, so until next time.